Hello everyone, thank you all for coming to this meeting. In this presentation I'll be talking about the future of FromSoft's Souls-like games, and how to avoid its downfall by looking into the game Lies of P. After the Elden Ring DLC was released and beaten by people all over the world, the general consensus was, this shit is getting very hard. I'm not here to argue that Elden Ring is too hard or not fun. This video will be solely based on objective truth and not personal opinion. And the truth is that the bosses are getting faster, stronger, and overall, flashier. And we as the players can't keep up. Let me specify. Obviously in the sense of beating a boss we can keep up, but in the sense of feeling powerful, we cannot keep up. Now I'm sure you might be thinking that in Elden Ring you can not only become strong, but extremely overpowered. Well, what's important to understand is how you become powerful. One of the first criticisms that was unanimously agreed upon was that Elden Ring loses its magic after the first or few playthroughs. And that's because the game turns from a brand new adventure into a game of run to point A, to point B, to point C, to point blah 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 for a very, very long time. Then the cherry on top is that your reward is surface level upgrades, just number changes. So yes, you can become strong, but it all boils down to run for a long time, get number upgrades, and break the boss's poise with an unbalanced attack. And now you might call this fun, but remember I'm just being truthful. You might enjoy that playstyle, but the fact of the matter is you're the minority. To many, it's unfulfilling. So not only can we as the players not keep up with the bosses, but if you wanted to, you'll have to go on a grueling collectathon only just to see a bigger number. And this is only barely possible because it's an open world game. What if the next entry is more like a traditional Souls-like? Would the game just let you equip like 10 rings or something? Or would each ring or weapon upgrade just be supercharged? If that is what happens, then that is the downfall I was referring to. We need something that expresses skill and allows us to keep up with the new generation of hard bosses. Not every new Souls-like FromSoft game can be Dark Souls 3, but you can tune your numbers a lot. It's not a healthy way to balance the player. This is where Lies of P shines. Now if you're a diehard and opinionated Dark Souls fan, you might remember Lies of P as the game that copied all the other games. Now that's a bit of a harsh way to describe Lies of P, but for the sake of staying truthful, it's important to acknowledge that Lies of P does take many aspects from Demon Souls, Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 3, Bloodborne, and Sekiro. The reason why I bring this up is because a lot of people would question my video title. How could Miyazaki learn anything from a game that is just a Frankenstein of his own titles? Well, the beautiful thing about Lies of P is that it's a proof of concept. Proof that you can not only keep up with the fast and flashy bosses with skill, but also proving that with smart balancing, any weapon and weapon type feels just as valuable as any other. One of the first things that Lies of P will prove is that dodge rolling is outdated. Dodge rolling is simply slow. This is just a fact. Completing an entire roll animation, then the startup animation of your attack, then waiting for your animation to end to gain control of your character is slow. And because of this, the bosses start feeling more and more uncontested. This ends up forcing a common meta build in FromSoft games. Light roll, light attack, light weapon, leaving other weapons or builds in the dust. If you disagree with this statement, I urge you to play Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 2, and Dark Souls 3 with an Ultra Greatsword, and I promise you by Dark Souls 3, you'll notice the boss fights clearly are not as engaging as your light roll, light attack, and light weapon builds. And you may think it should be that way. You might think it's dumb for an Ultra Greatsword weapon type to keep up with the speed and DPS of a light build. I mean, how would you balance that, right? At best, it would be like Elden Ring and just turn colossal weapons into poise-breaking tools. That still get outshined by other options. And this is one of the first things Miyazaki can learn. Jiwon confirmed that no matter the weapon type, parrying can make it engaging. How many different primary weapons can you use in Sekiro? Arguably 2. And remind me, why is that? To focus on combat, it was seen as a necessary trade-off. Less weapons equals focus on one great fighting style. Yet Liza P proved that you can put that effort into all weapon types. All 40 different weapons and weapon types work and are engaging due to parrying, keeping you locked into a toe-to-toe battle no matter what. Rolling only works with a few type of playstyles in today's fast tempo boss fights. I understand that's a very brash claim, so I'll end this point with this. If you disagree, all I want from you is to have my words in the back of your head for the next FromSoft game you play. And I promise you that if you put your biases aside, you will notice what I said is exactly true. If I was to say Elden Ring makes you artificially cool and Liza P empowers you to be cool, would that make any sense to you? In Elden Ring, you are not given the chance to feel or look cool on your own accord. Instead, you simply press a button and your Ash of War plays an animation that will most likely be interrupted anyway. This is where Liza P has all FromSoft games in a chokehold. Liza P has Fable Arts, basically the FP bar from Dark Souls 3 with attacks and buffs as flashy as Shadow of the Erdtree Ash of Wars, but with the main difference being that it's treated like a super move from a fighting game, like an ace card, usually uninterruptible, a power move. But if that's all Liza P has to make you cool, it would fall under being artificially cool like Elden Ring. But for Liza P, the Fable Arts are just scratching the surface of being cool. RPG, role-playing game. There is simply no kind way to say this. Modern Souls-like FromSoft games are shallow RPGs. They completely lost their way in terms of creativity and fantasy fulfilling. Liza P has so many tools to allow you to play in any way you want. The depth of specific upgrades, the Quartz skill tree, Legion arms, Legion arm upgrades, weapon assembly, letting you mix and match Fable Arts and weapon attack animations, armor, amulets, blocking, parrying, dodging, sidestepping, special grindstones, and all of it still relies on you expressing your skill. When I say you can have any build in this game, I don't mean sitting outside the boss room buffing, then basically playing a default fight until breaking the boss's poise to then safely express your build's concept. I'm talking 24/7, your game will literally play different and feel uniquely distinct with your build always feeling accounted for. Every time you want to do something cool in Elden Ring, you're always thinking to yourself, it's not safe. That's simply not okay. What I'm saying is that Miyazaki lays out all the puzzle pieces for you to make a build, but only select few are actually playable. Most builds not being able to freely express themselves and to be cool, being forced to wait until it's safe. Then Jiwon lays out all his puzzle pieces, and every single build imaginable you can create with those puzzle pieces are accounted for. The true essence of an RPG realized. As a player of the game, you should be able to look at all these options and run wild with ideas, but it's just so shallow in Elden Ring. And you might try to defend Elden Ring, pointing out how it's an infinitely larger game than Liza P with way more items and weapons. And that is correct. But that just means Miyazaki bit off more than he could chew. He created an unbalanceable nightmare, and that is also correct. To avoid this downfall, Miyazaki can learn from Jiwon. Learn that numbered changes are not a fulfilling way to compete with bosses. Learn that parrying is viable alongside with rolling. Learn that quality is better than quantity when it comes to weapons. Learn that although difficult, creating a game that lets you realize your RPG fantasies is important. Learn that looking cool is different from being cool. When Demon's Souls and Dark Souls released, its gameplay was praised for innovation. As of Elden Ring, the gameplay has stagnated. The bosses are getting faster and stronger, yet Miyazaki insists that our characters must be as default as possible, grounding us in the same movement and motions that we have grown to acknowledge refine, and finally, outgrow. Oh, my weapon's about to break. Oh, no! That was so, my friend was too strong. My childhood friend is too strong. That was sick.
That was sick.
That was so cool. I'm clipping that. This game is so good.